Hello, this is Steve with another use of English video for the Cambridge exams. This one is probably slightly more B2 focused, but also useful for C1 since obviously there's a lot of crossover, and a difficult B2 question is the same as a C1 question, or even a normal B2 question is an easy C1 question, so there's a lot of crossover there. And we're focusing on part 4 because this is a part that requires loads of practice, that has useful expressions from part 1, from part 2 and part 3 in it, and normally students struggle with it. And we're going to try and think, what are you actually learning? What do you need to learn for part 4? Like, there's some that it's just an expression that's going to be very difficult to memorize. But then there's some structures that are repeated, as I've gone over in other part 4 videos I've done, where you can learn them. Again, as always, we're going to try and make it so you are doing it yourself. So you're not just passively doing lots of activities, but you're actively understanding how the exam works, making your own questions, breaking it down and understanding it. Right, so let's get into it with lots of examples, or some. So we've got a typical B2 question here with since. Pause the video, try and answer it, take a second. And of course you should have, it has been 6 years since, because since is with present perfect. That is the point they are testing. Do you know that in English we use since with present perfect, which is not the same in all languages, but in English it often sounds best with present perfect. Okay, great. If you did it, great. If you didn't, well, you need to learn this. How can you learn it? One idea might be to make your own. So I'm going to give you the answer. I want you to make a sentence similar to the first one, but based on this idea about 10 years since seeing some cousin. So make a sentence and this is the answer. So you're basically making a sentence like this. We're starting very easy. You're just replacing 6 with 10 and Tammy with I or you, and played the piano with see your cousin. So your sentence should be, it has been 10 years since I last saw my cousin. That's going to be a good B2 level sentence for understanding this structure of since. We're going to delete the same words, blank the same words. Has been 10 years since I has been, because has been with since, okay? And then we're going to make a sentence that means the same thing. So what's a sentence that means the same as it has been 10 years since I last saw my cousin? Well, I haven't seen my cousin for 10 years. And your word is since. So we've made our own question, and now you really understand how to use since. And you can even make another one that's completely your own. Great. Let's move on to another grammar point. Pause the video, answer the question. The answer is coming in 3, 2, 1. Well, we've got if, we've got a conditional. Would not have been is the third conditional. If Dave had arrived on time. I've messed that up, haven't I? If Carla had arrived on time. That should say Carla. Maybe I'll edit the video with my great editing skills. Dave would not have been annoyed. Point is, it's a third conditional. If he had done this, this would not have happened. But he did do it. He was annoyed because Carla was late. So if Carla had arrived, and so on. And of course, there's a second point. You have to know that not arriving late means arriving on time. You have to know this structure, on time. Or you could also say in time. If you said in time, it's okay for this question. They're slightly different, but it's okay. So now make your own. Can you make this sentence about Donnie turning off TV and Chrissy not being angry? And remember, you are writing the answer, so I want a third conditional sentence. Your third conditional sentence should be, if Donnie had turned TV off, or the TV off, both are okay, Chrissy would not have been angry, right? But he didn't turn it off. So now we need to make the first sentence with, he didn't turn it off, so Chrissy was angry, because then it's the same thing, isn't it? So make your first sentence. Try and do it yourself. Don't just watch me and then copy it. Try and do it yourself. What would the first sentence be that means the same as this in the exam? After we've deleted our words, our first sentence would be something like, Donnie left the television on, so Chrissy was angry. Now let's think about this, because if I give you turned now, you have to think, if you left it on, then you didn't turn it off, because the phrasal verb that means not leave it on is to turn off. So that's the other thing we're testing, because for these questions, there's always going to be two things tested. One being your third conditional, and one being a little expression like on time or turn off. Didn't leave it on, turned it off. If Donnie had turned the TV off, Chrissy would not have been angry. Makes sense, doesn't it? So you've made a nice complete question there, I hope. Again, try and make your own. Try and think of, okay, I need a third conditional. I need to test some kind of little, collocation, phrasal verb, something like that will normally be tested. And think about your typical B2 collocations, phrasal verbs that you've seen in part 1, part 2. That's a great way of doing it. Let's move on. We're going to do 6, the same as on the exam. I don't normally wear a tie, so it feels a bit weird. Try and answer it. Well, when you see used, you should straight away be thinking, I am used to, I am not used to, I am getting used to, and so on and so on. And here, I don't normally do it, so I am not used to it. And of course, used to, this to is a preposition to be used to doing something. So it's a preposition, so it's followed by ing. Your second mark is for taking wear and making it wearing, because it's a verb following a preposition, so it must be in the gerund form, ing. So what are we testing here? We're testing if you know that being used to doing something means normally doing it, being comfortable doing it, being familiar doing it, being accustomed to doing it. So let's make a question where we use used to and we show that we know how to do it. Your answer might be something like get used to, right? To change it a bit. This is to be used to, but we're going to make it get used to show that we really understand it. Trying to make these a bit more difficult. So sentence might be something like, I need to get used to running long distances, so I'm ready for the marathon. And again, we're going to delete the part with get used to, right? Because that's the question, get used to ing, that's the important thing. We can also delete a little bit more. I've deleted 6 words, haven't I? That's not very good. I guess we can not delete 2, we'll leave 2. And then make a sentence that means the same thing, that has this idea of getting used to, like I just said. It being normal, being familiar with it, being comfortable with it, something like that. I would suggest, there's a lot of options here, but something like familiarize myself with long distance runs, because if I familiarize myself with long distance runs, I have to use the word used, then I need to get used to what? Running long distances. Makes sense, doesn't it? The distances, running long distances. So again, testing 2 things. One is the idea of running ing when they give us run, and the other is knowing that familiarize myself means get used to. Again, try and make another question yourself. That's the whole point of this. Let's move on. Reported speech. We see someone saying something, so we're reporting what they said. What do you think the answer is? I'm going to tell you in 3, 2, 1. Well, accused, this is a verb that you have to know how to use, and you accuse someone of doing something, don't you? So Richie accused Jazz of breaking his watch. Accuse someone of doing something. That's it. That's the structure you need to know. For your turn, we're not going to use accuse because you've already learned that one, or if you haven't, now you know it. We're going to use another verb, a common reporting verb that you should know for B2, this category of reporting verbs that you can search for and study. We're going to use encourage, right? As in someone said something and then I'm saying what they said and they encouraged me. How do we use encourage? Try and write the sentence. You encourage someone to do something. That's what I'm testing, isn't it? Ryan encouraged me to work out every day. Now, what would Ryan say here? Well, we're going to delete the encouraged me, and I'm going to delete work. And there's a reason I'm going to delete work, isn't there? Because if you see work out, that's a phrasal verb. That's a typical thing to test on part 4. So what's a phrasal verb? The phrasal verb work out, but what's an expression that means the same as the phrasal verb work out? So that then you have to produce work out. You should do exercise every day, Ryan told me. And the word is encouraged. So the first question is, how do I use encouraged? Encouraged me to. And now do exercise with the word out. It's got to be work out, hasn't it? So it makes sense. Ryan encouraged me to work out every day. How satisfying and elegant to make a nice question like that. Try and do your own. You'll learn a lot about part 4. Moving on. Mo can't wait to finish the course. 3, 2, 1. Of course, Mo is looking forward to finishing. Looking forward to, very common expression, and it's the same grammar point as before. To is a preposition here, so it must be ing. Similar expression, when do we use ing, when do we use infinitive? I want to show me that you know how to use manage, because manage, is it with ing, is it with infinitive, what does it mean? What is this sentence? This sentence would be something like, Ron didn't manage to finish the activity, because manage is a verb that is followed by the infinitive when it's followed by another verb. And it's an easy one to find synonyms for, isn't it? So maybe we could have a sentence that means the same as this without using manage. We could have something like, Ron was not capable of finishing. Now here we've got quite a different sentence, because manage, capable of, okay, but capable of, ing. So you're going to have to really change the sentence to use manage. If he wasn't capable of, he did not manage. And what was he doing? He was trying to finish. He did not manage to finish. Manage plus infinitive. That's a nice question. That one I could definitely imagine that on an exam. All right, our last one that we'll look into in detail before I give you some more homework. Pause the video, take a second, have a think. The bag is not big enough. So if it's not big enough, then what is it? That bag, we don't have a lot of words, so it's probably better to say what it is. And if it's not big enough, it is too small. It's too small to hold all my books. What we're testing here is adjective plus infinitive. Again, gerund infinitive, so common for B2 and C1. But basically, if it's not big enough, it's too small. So a bit of vocab and then a bit of grammar to say that it's, again, adjective plus infinitive. Your turn, a similar sentence, a very similar sentence. The water not hot enough, boil pasta. What's the sentence going to be? You're not adding a lot of information to this sentence. It should be easy. That water is not hot enough to boil pasta. Then try and make your own sentence, flipping it around. If it's not hot enough, what is it? What would the first sentence be? Might be something like, well, what we're going to delete? We're going to delete the key part about hot enough to, not hot enough to. The pasta won't boil in that water. It's too cold. If it's too cold and you give me the word hot, then is not hot enough to boil pasta. Makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense. Okay, to finish, I've got 6 more very typical B2 questions. Pause the video, go through them, try and answer them. Remember, 2 marks each, and then I'll explain the answers. Answers coming in 3, 2, 1. The first answer, you are not supposed to eat. So to be supposed to, and then with the infinitive, to be supposed to do something. That's what we're testing really. And of course, eating, to eat. Reporting verbs with apologized. I didn't let you know. Apologized for not letting. You apologize for something, ing. And how do we use a negative infinitive or even a negative gerund? Not doing it. Doing it, not doing it. Prevented them from doing it. So with able, this is a little bit like what we said, capable, managed. With able, it's to be able to do something. They were not able to go. And again, you can see able is an adjective, is followed by the infinitive. And actually supposed to is technically an adjective as well, isn't it, in this sentence, I think. So it's followed by infinitive. This one, a really common structure. He was surprised. So what happened? It came as a surprise to Otto, or for Otto. For Otto sounds okay to me, but to you normally see on the exam. It came as a surprise for Otto. It came as a surprise to Otto. So come as a surprise. You also see this with came as a shock, came as a disappointment, came as a relief. What's the one with amazement? I was amazed to my amazement. That's the other way, isn't it? To my surprise, to my disappointment, to my amazement. Means I was amazed, I was surprised, I was disappointed, and so on. Far more money, expect to pay so much. So I paid more than I expected. I didn't expect, obviously negative. Expect is with infinitive. So like we said, verb patterns, so common. You expect to do something. And a lot more money is so much money. And the last one, if Bobby cooks better than his dad, then by logic, his dad doesn't cook as well as he does. As well as comparative sentence is very common, and a negative doesn't cook. I mean, it's pretty easy, but you have to use it correctly. So those are your 12 marks for your B2 Part 4. Lots of typical structures that I hope have proved useful. To practice, I recommend taking these and playing with them like we did in the previous activities. Think, okay, supposed to. Can I make a sentence with supposed to? Can I do another reporting verb? Can I play around with unable to? Or can I do came as a disappointment, like we said? So keep changing them till you really understand the structures. Right, that's enough for today. Thank you. Bye.